Picture this: an 8-year-old child who barely looked up from their tablet during family dinners, who complained about chores, who took everything for granted. Now imagine that same child, just 4 weeks later, voluntarily helping their grandmother in the kitchen, showing genuine appreciation for meals and understanding the value of what they have. This isn't a fantasy. This is what happened when one family decided to take their child back to the Philippines for an extended visit, and what they discovered changed everything they thought they knew about raising kids in the modern world.
The transformation didn't happen overnight, and it certainly wasn't planned. When the Martinez family booked their tickets to Manila, they were simply going home to visit relatives. They had no idea they were about to witness a complete shift in their daughter Sophia's perspective on life, family, and gratitude. What started as a vacation turned into a masterclass in cultural values that no parenting book could have taught them. The changes were so profound that other parents in their community started asking what their secret was. The answer was simpler and more complex than anyone expected.
Sophia had grown up in a typical Western household where independence and individual achievement were celebrated above all else. She had her own room, her own toys, and her own schedule. Sharing wasn't really necessary when you had everything you needed within arm's reach. Respect for elders was encouraged but not deeply ingrained. Gratitude was expressed with a quick thanks before moving on to the next thing. These weren't bad values, but they created a child who was, in her mother's words, becoming increasingly disconnected from the deeper meaning of family and community. The first week in the Philippines was a shock to Sophia's system. She arrived at her grandmother's home in a bustling neighborhood where 3 generations lived under one roof. The house was smaller than what she was used to, and privacy was a luxury rather than a given. Participation, connection, and presence. Initially, Sophia struggled. She missed her personal space and her routine. She didn't understand why she had to greet every elder with a respectful gesture, pressing the back of their hand to her forehead in the traditional sign of respect called mano po. She found it strange that her younger cousins would call her ate, meaning older sister, even though they had just met. Everything felt foreign and uncomfortable. But her parents made a decision that would prove transformative. They didn't shelter her from this discomfort. They let her experience it fully, knowing that growth often comes from being outside our comfort zones.
Something shifted during the second week when Sophia witnessed her grandmother waking up at 5 in the morning to prepare breakfast for the entire household. She watched as this elderly woman, who had every right to rest, chose instead to serve her family with a smile. There was no complaining, no sense of burden, just quiet, steady love expressed through action. Sophia's mother explained the concept of utang na loob, the debt of gratitude that connects generations in Filipino families. It wasn't about obligation in a negative sense, but about recognizing and honoring the sacrifices made by those who came before you.
The children in the neighborhood became Sophia's unexpected teachers. Unlike her friends back home who had rooms full of toys, these kids made games out of rubber bands and bottle caps. They played outside until the streetlights came on, creating elaborate adventures with nothing but their imagination and each other's company. What struck Sophia most was their happiness. They weren't lacking anything in their own eyes. They had community, creativity, and genuine connection. She started joining their games, at first reluctantly, then eagerly. The tablet she'd brought from home stayed in her bag, forgotten and irrelevant. Family meals became revelatory experiences. In Sophia's home country, dinner was often eaten in shifts based on everyone's schedules. sometimes in front of screens. Here, meals were sacred gatherings where stories were shared, laughter echoed off the walls, and multiple conversations happened simultaneously. Sophia learned to listen to her elders share stories about their youth, understanding for the first time that the people around her had rich, complex lives full of struggles and triumphs. She began to see her grandmother not just as an old woman, but as someone who had survived hardships Sophia couldn't imagine. The concept of Biennian, the spirit of communal unity and cooperation, came alive when a neighbor's house needed repairs. Sophia watched as people from the entire street showed up without being asked, bringing tools, materials, and food. They worked together for days, expecting nothing in return except the knowledge that they were helping someone in need. When Sophia asked why everyone was helping when it wasn't their house, her uncle explained that in their community, your neighbor's problem was your problem. This wasn't just a saying, it was how they actually lived. Respect for elders took on new meaning when Sophia spent time with her great-grandmother, a woman in her 90s who had lived through war, poverty, and immense change. The way everyone in the family spoke to her, served her, and honored her wisdom showed Sophia that age wasn't something to be dismissed or hidden away. It was celebrated as a source of knowledge and experience. She noticed how her cousins would pause their games to help an elderly neighbor cross the street, how they would offer their seats without being told, how they spoke with genuine reverence when addressing anyone older. By the third week, something remarkable was happening. Sophia started waking up early to help her grandmother in the kitchen. Not because she was forced to, but because she wanted to spend time with her and contribute to the family. She began greeting relatives with proper respect gestures without being reminded. She shared her snacks with her cousins automatically, understanding that what you have is meant to be shared. She showed patience with younger children, taking on the role of ate with surprising maturity. The change wasn't forced or performed. It came from somewhere deeper, a fundamental shift in how she understood her place in the world. Her parents noticed she was using different language. Instead of I want and I need, she started saying we and us. Instead of complaining about what she didn't have, she expressed gratitude for what she did have. When a planned trip to a popular theme park got canceled due to weather, she didn't throw a tantrum. She suggested they play games at home with the cousins instead. This level of flexibility and contentment was completely new. The child who used to need constant entertainment was now capable of creating joy from simple moments of connection. The transformation really crystallized during a visit to a rural area where her extended family farmed rice. Sophia got to experience firsthand where food comes from, seeing the back-breaking labor that goes into cultivating crops. She helped plant rice seedlings in the muddy paddies, feeling the heat of the sun and the ache in her back after just an hour of work. That evening, when she ate the rice her family had grown, she understood in a visceral way what it meant to not waste food. She thought about all the meals she had left half-eaten back home, all the complaints about what was served. She felt a wave of shame, followed by determination to do better. Church on Sunday revealed another dimension of Filipino culture. The family attended Mass together, and Sophia observed how prayer and faith were woven into daily life. It wasn't performative or separate from regular activities. People prayed before meals, before trips, during difficulties. They found comfort and strength in their spirituality. Whether or not Sophia adopted these specific religious practices wasn't the point. What mattered was seeing how faith gave people resilience, hope, and a sense of purpose beyond material success. Perhaps the most powerful lesson came from witnessing her family's response to a crisis. When a distant relative fell seriously ill and couldn't afford medical treatment, the family mobilized immediately. Everyone contributed what they could, from financial support to taking turns at the hospital, to bringing food for the patient's children. There was no debate about whether to help, or calculations about fairness. The need existed, so the family responded. Sophia watched her mother, who usually kept strict budgets, give generously without hesitation. When Sophia asked if they could afford it, her mother explained that family always comes first, and they would find a way to manage. As the fourth week approached and their departure date loomed, Sophia's parents noticed their daughter had stopped asking when they were going home. She was home, just in a different way than they had anticipated. She had built genuine relationships with her cousins, had established routines and roles within the household, and had found a sense of belonging that transcended geography. The thought of leaving made her sad in a way that revealed how deeply she had connected with this place and these people.
The night before their flight, Sophia's grandmother pulled her aside for a private conversation. She spoke about the importance of carrying these values forward, of remembering that respect, gratitude, and family bonds weren't things you practiced only in the Philippines. They were principles for life. She told Sophia that the greatest gift she could give her parents was to honor them through her actions and choices. She explained that being a good person meant thinking beyond yourself, contributing to your community, and treating everyone with dignity regardless of their status or what they could give you in return. The return trip home felt different from the journey there. Sophia looked out the airplane window, already missing the chaos and warmth of her grandmother's house. She thought about her cousins still playing in the streets, her grandmother still waking up early to serve her family, the neighbors still helping each other without keeping score. She wondered if she could maintain these lessons in a culture that often valued different things, that celebrated individual success over collective well-being, that sometimes forgot the importance of honoring those who came before. But something fundamental had changed in Sophia. She had experienced an alternative way of being in the world, one that emphasized connection over isolation, gratitude over entitlement, service over self-centeredness. These weren't just abstract concepts anymore. They were lived experiences, memories that shaped her understanding of what mattered in life. Her parents watched this transformation with a mixture of pride and amazement, realizing that they too had learned valuable lessons about what truly creates a meaningful life.
Back in their home country, the changes persisted in ways that surprised everyone. Sophia started helping with household chores without being asked, seeing them as contributions to the family rather than burdens to avoid. She spoke to her grandparents with new warmth and interest, calling them regularly to hear their stories. She became more generous with her belongings, understanding that things were meant to be shared and enjoyed together. When conflicts arose with friends, she approached them with more empathy and patience, thinking about harmony and relationship rather than just being right. Her school teachers noticed the shift too. Sophia became more considerate of others, more willing to help classmates who were struggling, more respectful in how she spoke to adults. She participated in class discussions with more thoughtfulness, showing interest in perspectives different from her own. During a school project about cultural values, she spoke passionately about what she had learned in the Philippines, inspiring other students to think differently about family, community, and what creates a good life. The transformation wasn't perfect or complete. Sophia still had moments of typical childhood selfishness, still got frustrated and impatient sometimes, still lived in a culture that didn't always reinforce the values she had learned. But something essential had taken root. She had experienced a different way of being human, one that centered relationships over possessions, gratitude over complaints, and service over entitlement. These experiences gave her a reference point, a North Star to return to when she felt herself drifting toward shallow values or disconnection. Her parents found themselves reflecting on their own upbringings and the values they were passing on to their daughter. They realized that much of Sophia's previous behavior was simply a reflection of the culture surrounding her. a culture they had unconsciously reinforced through their own choices and priorities. The trip to the Philippines had been a gift to all of them, a reminder of what matters most in a world that often celebrates superficial measures of success.
What made this transformation so powerful was its authenticity. Sophia hadn't been lectured or forced into these new behaviors. She had witnessed them, lived them, and experienced their benefits firsthand. She had felt the warmth of a family that truly functioned as a unit, the security of a community that supported each other, the satisfaction of contributing meaningfully to something larger than herself. These weren't lessons from a book or a movie. They were real experiences that changed how she saw herself and her place in the world. This story isn't unique to Sophia or her family. Countless children who spend time immersed in Filipino culture experience similar transformations. There's something about the emphasis on family bonds, the respect for elders, the spirit of communal cooperation, and the practice of gratitude that resonates deeply, especially for children growing up in cultures that sometimes prioritize individual achievement over collective well-being. These values aren't exclusive to the Philippines, of course. Many cultures around the world maintain similar traditions. But the particular way Filipino culture expresses and embodies these principles creates powerful learning opportunities for children and adults alike. The lesson here isn't that one culture is superior to another, or that everyone should raise their children exactly as Filipinos do. Rather, it's about recognizing that exposing children to different value systems can profoundly expand their understanding of what's possible, what's important, and what creates genuine happiness and fulfillment. In an increasingly globalized world, this kind of cultural fluency becomes not just valuable, but essential. Children who can appreciate multiple perspectives, who understand different ways of organizing family and community life, who can find common ground across cultural differences, will be better equipped to navigate the complex world they're inheriting. Sophia's story reminds us that transformation is possible, that children are incredibly adaptable and responsive to the environments they're placed in, and that sometimes the most powerful education happens outside of classrooms. It shows us that values like respect, gratitude, and community responsibility aren't old-fashioned or irrelevant. They're timeless principles that, when genuinely embodied and practiced, create stronger families, healthier communities, and more fulfilled individuals. The real question isn't whether these values matter, but whether we're creating opportunities for our children to experience and embrace them in meaningful ways.